Imagine everything you've built, your empire, your legacy, millions earned through sweat and sacrifice stolen in a single night by the one person you trusted most. Picture standing in a glittering Houston ballroom, your heart pounding, as your own son raises a glass and lies to a room full of strangers, claiming he showers you with millions while you scrape by on pennies. What does it feel like when the boy you raised, the child you carried through life, betrays you with a smile, turning your name into a prop for his greed? The pain cuts deeper than any knife, a wound that bleeds with every memory of love. Welcome to a story of treachery, so raw, it'll leave you breathless. How far would you go to reclaim your truth? Welcome to Revenge X, where electrifying stories of betrayal and triumph set your soul ablaze. We're thrilled to have you join our community of viewers who celebrate unyielding resilience and fierce courage. Hit that subscribe button to never miss a heart-pounding tale, and it'd be incredible if you smashed the like button, shared this video, or dropped a comment with the time and city or country you're watching from. Your likes, shares, and heartfelt comments are the greatest spiritual gift, the fuel that keeps this channel burning bright. Now, buckle up for a story that'll hit you right in the feels. Let's dive in. My name is William Harper, a man who built a fortune in the oil fields of Texas and thought his legacy would be measured in love, not lies. At 65, I stood in a borrowed tuxedo, its cuffs grazing my knuckles, in the glittering ballroom of a Houston skyscraper, surrounded by the city's elite. It was my birthday, a milestone I'd hoped to celebrate quietly with family, but my son, Nathan Harper, had insisted on this lavish affair. The chandeliers dripped light like liquid gold, the air thick with the scent of wealth, cologne, champagne, and ambition. I'd spent decades drilling wells, signing deals, and shaking hands with men who owned half of Texas. But tonight, I felt like a stranger in my own story. My hands, rough from years of work, still carried the faint smell of motor oil from the vintage Mustang I'd driven to the venue, a car I kept to remind me of hungrier days. I'd given everything millions in investments, a mansion in River Oaks, private schools for Nathan to ensure he'd never know the grind I'd endured. Yet, as I stood there, the weight of a lie heavier than any oil rig pressed into my chest. Nathan raised his glass, his tailored suit catching the light like a politician's smile. $5 million a year, he declared, his voice booming over the clinking crystal. That's what I provide my father, to honor his sacrifices and ensure he lives like a king in his golden years. The room erupted applause, gasps, admiring murmurs from Houston's oil barons, real estate moguls, and socialites. 5 million. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. I lived in a modest condo, ate frozen dinners, and counted every penny to keep the lights on. My bank account, once flush with millions from my oil empire, now hovered near nothing, drained by years of family investments I'd trusted Nathan to manage. I stood frozen, my smile a mask carved from shock, as Nathan's arm clamped onto my shoulder, a gesture less filial than possessive. The lie wasn't just a number. It was a theft of my name, my pride, my very existence, paraded before a room of strangers who clapped for a fiction. Beside him, my daughter-in-law, Vanessa Harper, née Caldwell, tilted her champagne flute, her diamond earrings glinting like knives. Her smile was sharp, not warm, her eyes locking onto mine with a venomous triumph. She wasn't just complicit, she was the architect. Her ambition, a blade honed over years of manipulating Nathan's greed. I saw it in the way she leaned into him, whispering something that made his grin widen, as if they were co-conspirators in a play where I was the unwitting fool. The betrayal cut deeper than I could breathe through. This wasn't just my son. It was the boy I'd carried through county fairs, the teenager I'd funded through Wharton, the man I'd handed my empire to, believing he'd honor me. And Vanessa, who I'd welcomed as a daughter, had turned my trust into a weapon. But the room didn't see that. They saw a devoted son and his elegant wife, toasting a father they claimed to cherish. Then came the first twist, a jolt that turned my shock into a wildfire of rage. As the applause faded, a woman approached Clara Evans, my longtime accountant and one of the few I'd trusted with my books. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as she slipped me a folded note. "William, check your trust accounts," it read. "They're empty." Empty. My heart thudded, a drumbeat of betrayal. I'd entrusted Nathan with a $50 million trust, meant to secure my retirement, believing his promises of safe investments. Clara's eyes held a quiet loyalty, a stark contrast to the vipers circling me. She whispered that she'd uncovered discrepancies, millions siphoned to offshore accounts under Vanessa's maiden name, Caldwell Holdings. The room spun. My own son, my own flesh, had not just lied but stolen a fortune, draping it in the costume of care. Before I could process this, another shock landed. A man in a crisp suit, introduced as Nathan's business partner, Derek Langston, clapped Nathan on the back and added to the lie. "Nathan's generosity is legendary," he boomed. "He's set up a trust so grand, it's the talk of Wall Street." Derek's grin was oily, his words a calculated performance. I realized then he was no bystander, he was a conspirator. Profiting from the scheme, his loyalty bought with a cut of my stolen millions. The betrayal tripled in weight, not just family, but a cabal of greed, each player more brazen than the last. My chest tightened, torn between the urge to scream and the instinct to flee. I'd built my life on trust. Trust in handshakes, in family, in the son I'd raised. Now, that trust was a noose, and the room's applause tightened it. The final blow came as I stepped onto the balcony, seeking air to cool the fire in my lungs. Vanessa followed, her heels clicking like a predator's claws. "William," she said, her voice smooth as poison, "you look unwell. Perhaps the champagne's too much for you." I shook my head, my voice low but steady. "I don't drink, Vanessa, and I don't forget numbers. 50 million is missing, and I know it's not in my accounts." Her eyes flickered surprise, then cold calculation. "You're confused, old man," she hissed, stepping closer, her perfume sharp. "Nathan set up trusts for you. Be grateful, or you'll lose more than money." The threat was a blade, slicing through the last thread of hope that this was a misunderstanding. She wasn't just complicit, she was daring me to stay silent, betting on my shame to keep me in line. Inside, my mind waged a war. Part of me wanted to storm back in, grab the microphone, and expose them to the glittering crowd. I imagined their faces, Nathan's charm crumbling, Vanessa's poise shattering, Derek's smug grin fading. But another part, the father who still saw Nathan as the boy who'd laughed on my shoulders, begged me to stay quiet, to protect him, to believe he could change. The pain was a living thing, clawing at my chest. I'd given him everything, my wealth, my dreams, my name, and he'd turned it into a prop for his ambition. The betrayal wasn't just financial. It was a theft of my identity, my love, my legacy. Clara's note burned in my pocket, a reminder of the truth I couldn't ignore. I excused myself, my borrowed tuxedo feeling like a shroud as I slipped through the crowd. Nathan caught my eye, his smile, a showman's mask, and raised his glass again, as if to seal the lie. Vanessa's gaze followed, a silent warning. Derek clapped Nathan's shoulder, his laugh a grating echo. But Clara, standing quietly by the bar, nodded once, her loyalty a small anchor in the storm. I stepped into the Houston night, the city's skyline blinking coldly, each light a reminder of the empire I'd built and lost. My Mustang rattled as I drove back to my condo, the heater broken, the air as chilly as the truth settling in my bones. $50 million, a fortune I'd earned through sweat and sacrifice, had vanished into the hands of those I'd loved most. The fight was just beginning, and I would not let their lies bury me. The Houston night swallowed me whole as I drove away from the glittering ballroom, my Mustang's engine coughing like it shared my exhaustion. The city's pulse, honking horns, neon signs, the distant wail of a siren felt like a taunt, reminding me I was a stranger in the empire I'd built. My condo waited, a squat box in a midtown complex where the walls smelled of cheap paint and the carpet held stains older than my grief. I parked, climbed the creaking stairs, and stepped into silence, the kind that sits heavy when you've been betrayed by your own blood. The kitchen table held a stack of bills, electric, water, a medical copay from a knee that hadn't worked right since a rig accident in my 40s. Each envelope was a brick, piling up to wall me in. I sat, staring at the numbers, my mind replaying Nathan's voice. $5 million a year, like a cruel jukebox stuck on a single track. The lie wasn't just theft. It was a blade twisting in the heart of every sacrifice I'd made. I opened my laptop, the screen's glow harsh against my tired eyes. My bank account told the truth Nathan wouldn't. A few $1,000s, scraps from a fortune I'd handed over to my son's management. The betrayal burned, but a new fire sparked a need to know where my millions had gone. Then, a knock at the door, sharp and impatient, snapped me out of my haze. It was Tommy Delgado, my old rig foreman, now a private investigator who'd traded oil-stained boots for a leather jacket and a nose for secrets. His face, lined from years under the Texas sun, held a loyalty that felt like a lifeline. "Heard about the party," he said, voice gruff. "Nathan's been flapping his mouth all over town. You okay, boss?" I wasn't, but I nodded, handing him Clara's note. His eyes narrowed as he read it, then he swore under his breath. "This ain't just a lie, Will. It's a damn heist. I'll dig into Caldwell Holdings, Give me a week. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. Keep your mouth shut, old man, or you'll lose more than your pride. The words hit like a sucker punch, raw and street sharp, dripping with Vanessa's venom. I showed Tommy, my hands shaking not from fear, but from a rage that felt like it could crack the walls. The threat wasn't just a warning. It was a confession they thought I was too broken to fight. My mind churned, torn between the father who wanted to call Nathan, to beg for an explanation, and the man who'd clawed his way from nothing, who knew a snake when he saw one. I chose the latter, but the father in me wept, picturing Nathan's boyish grin at a 4th of July barbecue, now replaced by a con man's smirk. The next shock came faster than I could brace for. Tommy, still standing in my cramped living room, pulled out his phone and showed me a grainy photo from a contact in Nathan's office. It was a ledger page labeled Harper Family Trust, listing monthly transfers of $5 million to an account I'd never seen. The recipient? Not me, but a shell company, Caldwell Ventures, tied to Vanessa's maiden name. The betrayal tripled, a gut-wrenching spiral. Nathan hadn't just lied. He'd built a machine to siphon my wealth, with Vanessa pulling the levers and Derek Langston greasing the gears. I pictured Derek's smug face at the party, his hand on Nathan's shoulder, and realized he wasn't just a partner, he was a vulture, circling my fortune with a grin that screamed gotcha. Then, another twist, like a plot twist in a barroom brawl. My phone rang, and it was Marla Jenkins, a bartender from the dive bar where I sometimes nursed a coffee after long days. Marla was a middleman in Houston's gossip network, her ears catching whispers the elite thought stayed private. "Will," she said, her voice low, "word's out, you're asking questions. Vanessa's been bragging at the country club about a new yacht, saying it's funded by family money. Thought you should know. The yacht worth millions, no doubt felt like a slap. Its gleaming hull, a monument to my stolen legacy. My chest tightened, the air too thin to hold the hurt. I thanked Marla, her honesty, a small candle in the dark, but her words fueled a storm inside me. I wanted to storm Nathan's mansion, to demand answers, but the weight of my love for him pinned me to the chair. Could I destroy the son I'd raised for the truth? The door rattled again, and this time it was Derek himself, his Rolex glinting under the hallway's dim bulb. "Well, well, old-timer," he sneered, his voice pure Houston street swagger. "You look like you're about to cry over spilt millions. Why don't you just sit back and let Nathan run the show? You're too damn old to play detective." His words were a blade, slicing through my dignity, but his eyes betrayed panic, a crack in his cocky facade. I stood, my voice steady despite the fire in my gut. "Get out, Derek. You're a leech, and I'm not your meal ticket anymore." He laughed, but it was hollow, and he backed away, tossing a parting shot. "Keep poking, and you'll be sorry, Grandpa." The threat landed, but it only hardened my resolve. He wasn't just Nathan's partner. He was a predator, profiting off my pain. The final shock came as I sat alone, the condo's silence pressing in like a vice. My phone lit up with an email from Clara, marked urgent. Attached was a document, a tax filing from Nathan's company, claiming me as a dependent with an annual support of $5 million. The lie was now paper, filed with the IRS, a brazen fraud that could land Nathan in prison. But worse, it named Vanessa as the trustee of a Harper legacy fund, a fund I'd never authorized, funneling my millions into her accounts. The betrayal was a living thing, clawing at my soul. I saw Nathan as a toddler, clinging to my leg at a rig site, and felt a sob rise, only to choke it down. The father in me wanted to protect him, to believe this was a mistake. But the man who'd fought for every dollar knew better. Vanessa's yacht, Derek's Rolex, Nathan's lies, they were a conspiracy, each layer a fresh wound. I leaned back, the chair creaking under my weight, and let the hurt wash over me. It wasn't just the money, 50 million stolen, a fortune built from sweat and sleepless nights. It was the theft of my trust, my name, my love. Tommy's loyalty, Clara's quiet courage, and Marla's whispered tip were the only anchors keeping me from drowning. I opened a notebook, my hands trembling, and wrote, 5 million, a lie told in a ballroom. A yacht sails on my stolen dreams. The words were a vow, a map to the truth. I wouldn't stay silent. Not anymore. The Houston skyline blinked outside, cold and distant, but inside me, a fire burned, fueled by betrayal, stoked by resolve. Nathan, Vanessa, and Derek thought they'd buried me in their lies, but I was still standing, and the fight was far from over. The morning after Derek's visit, the Houston sun rose like a witness who'd seen too much, casting a harsh light through my condo's thin curtains. My coffee was cold, the mug chipped from years of use, a relic from a life when I thought family meant trust. The notebook on my table, now a ledger of betrayal, held my scrawled vow. A yacht sails on my stolen dreams. I sipped the bitter dregs, my mind a battlefield where rage and grief wrestled for control. Every heartbeat carried Nathan's voice, $5 million a year, and Vanessa's venomous sneer, a symphony of lies that mocked the empire I'd built. I wanted to call Nathan, to hear him stammer an excuse, but the father in me was drowning in the man who'd learned to spot a con from a mile away. My hands shook, not from age, but from a fury that felt like it could burn this city down. A sharp rap at the door broke my spiral. It was Lena Carter, my neighbor, a retired nurse with a spine of steel and eyes that saw through excuses. She'd heard my Mustang pull in last night, late and rattling, and brought a thermos of coffee, her way of checking in without prying. "You look like you've been through hell, Will," she said, setting the thermos down. Her voice was warm, a balm against the raw edges of my heart. I told her about the party, the lie, the yacht, and Clara's warning about empty trusts. Lena's face hardened, her loyalty a quiet fire. "That's not just betrayal," she said. "It's a damn mugging. You need to hit back. Hard." Her words were a spark, igniting a plan I hadn't dared voice. I'd go to Nathan's office, find proof, and tear their house of lies apart. Before I could act, my phone lit up with a voicemail from an unknown number. It was Vanessa, her voice dripping with street-sharp scorn. "Listen up, you washed up, has-been," she spat. "You think you can snoop around and play hero? Keep your nose out, or we'll make sure you're eating cat food in a gutter." The threat landed like a brick through a window, shattering any hope that she was just a bystander. My chest tightened, the air thick with the stench of her betrayal. She wasn't just stealing my money, she was rewriting my life, turning me into a footnote in her empire of greed. I saved the voicemail, my fingers trembling with a mix of fear and resolve. The father who'd tucked Nathan into bed wanted to believe this was a mistake, but the man staring at a near-empty bank account knew it was war. The first shock of the day hit like a lightning bolt. Tommy called, his voice tight with urgency. "Will, I got something. A buddy at the bank pulled records. Your $50 million? It's been funneled into a maze of accounts, all linked to Vanessa's Caldwell Ventures. But here's the kicker, Nathan's been signing your name on transfers, forging your signature like a two-bit hustler. Forgery. The word was a knife, slicing through the last thread of trust. I pictured Nathan's hand, the one I'd taught to grip a baseball, scrawling my name to steal my legacy. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was a desecration of my identity, a theft of the man I'd been. My knees buckled, but Lena caught my arm, her grip steady. "You're not alone in this, Will," she said. "We'll find the truth." Her loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge. Then came another twist, raw and vicious. My phone buzzed with a text from Marla, the bartender, heard from a waitress at Nathan's favorite steakhouse. He was there last night, bragging about a private jet funded by Dad's generosity. Derek was with him, laughing like a hyena. A jet? Another monument to my stolen millions, flaunted in Houston's ritziest circles while I counted quarters for laundry. The image of Nathan, my boy, toasting his theft with a ribeye and a smirk, was a fresh wound. My heart screamed to confront him, to demand why he'd traded my love for a jet's wings. But my mind whispered caution. I needed proof, not a shouting match. The pain was a living thing, clawing at my ribs, but Lena's steady gaze kept me grounded. "You're stronger than their lies," she said, and I clung to her words like a prayer. The third shock crashed in before I could catch my breath. A delivery arrived, a manila envelope, no return address, dropped off by a courier who vanished into the Houston haze. Inside was a photo of me, taken last week at a gas station, my face tired and unaware. Scrawled across it in red marker, "Back off, or this face gets uglier." The threat was crude, straight out of a street brawl, and I knew it came from Derek's playbook. His Rolex flashing bravado wasn't just talk, he was playing dirty, trying to scare me into silence. My stomach churned, torn between terror and defiance. I'd faced roughnecks on oil rigs who'd spit in your face for $1, but this was different. This was my son's world, weaponizing my image against me. I showed the photo to Lena, her eyes blazing. "They're scared, Will," she said. "Scared means you're close." The weight of it all pressed me into the chair, my mind a storm of grief and grit. I saw Nathan at 10, his eyes wide as I showed him an oiled Derek's roar, promising he'd inherit my strength. Now, he'd forged my name, bought jets with my blood, and let Vanessa and Derek spit on my legacy. The betrayal was a chasm, and I stood at its edge, torn between leaping in to save him and climbing out to save myself. Lena poured coffee from her thermos, her silence, a steady hand. "You don't owe them your silence," she said. "You owe yourself the truth." Her words cut through the fog, and I nodded, my jaw tight. I opened my notebook, writing, "Forged signatures. A jet flies on my stolen name." The words were a vow, a map to justice. I called Tommy, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "Get me into Nathan's office," I said. "I need to see the paper trail." He agreed. His loyalty, a rock I could lean on. As I hung up, my phone buzzed again, a message from an old friend, Ray Martinez, a retired CPA who'd once balanced my books. "Heard rumors, Will," he texted. "Nathan's been meeting with shady lawyers, cooking books to hide your millions. I'll help you trace it." Ray's offer was another anchor, but it deepened the wound. Even my old allies knew Nathan's betrayal before I did. The pain was a tide, pulling me under, but I fought to surface. I wouldn't let their lies bury me. The Houston skyline glared through my window, a city of glass and greed, but I was still here, my pen sharp, my heart unbroken. The fight was just beginning, and I'd make sure their lies burned in the light. The Houston dawn broke with a humid weight, the kind that clings to your skin like regret. My condo was a cage of shadows, the notebook on my table, a silent witness to the war inside me. Forged signatures. A jet flies on my stolen name. The words I'd written last night burned in my mind, each syllable a reminder of Nathan's betrayal, Vanessa's venom, and Derek's predatory grin. I poured fresh coffee, the steam curling like a ghost of the man I used to be, William Harper, oil tycoon, now a pawn in my son's game. My heart was a tug of war between the father who wanted to save Nathan and the man who refused to let his legacy be a lie. Lena's words, "You owe yourself the truth," echoed, pushing me toward action. But the pain of betrayal was a stone in my chest, heavy and cold. I'd built an empire for my son, only to watch him dismantle it with my own name. A text from Tommy jolted me from my thoughts. "Meet me at the diner off Main. Got something big." I grabbed my jacket, the one that still smelled faintly of motor oil, and drove through Houston's morning bustle, delivery trucks, joggers, the city waking like it didn't care about my unraveling world. At the diner, Tommy sat in a corner booth, his leather jacket creased, a manila folder in front of him. His eyes, sharp from years on rigs, held a grim resolve. "Found a paper trail," he said, sliding the folder over. Inside were bank statements, each one a dagger. Transfers of millions from my accounts to Caldwell Ventures, stamped with a notary seal that wasn't mine. "Nathan's been using a crooked lawyer, Vince Russo, to clean the money," Tommy said. "Vince is Derek's cousin. It's a family affair, Will." The revelation was a gut punch, another layer of betrayal. Not just Nathan and Vanessa, but a whole network of vipers, each profiting from my stolen millions. My hands clenched, torn between smashing the table and collapsing under the weight of it all. Before I could speak, the diner door swung open, and Vince himself strutted in, his cheap suit screaming wannabe gangster. "Well, look at the old oil baron," he sneered, his voice pure Houston street trash. "What's it like scraping by while your kid lives large on your dime, huh? Better crawl back to your hole before you get hurt, Pops." His words were a blade, cutting deeper than Vanessa's threats. I stood, my voice low but steel hard. "You're a bottom feeder, Vince. Keep talking, and I'll make sure the feds know your name." His smirk faltered, but he leaned in, breath sour with coffee. "You're a fossil, Harper. Keep sniffing around, and we'll bury you deeper than your old rigs." He sauntered out, but his bravado was a masked panic flickered in his eyes. The threat wasn't just personal, it was a confession of their guilt, and it fueled my fire. The first shock of the day landed like a thunderclap. My phone buzzed with a call from Marla, her voice shaking. "Will, I overheard Derek at the bar last night. He was drunk, bragging to some suit about a fake charity Harper Hope Foundation set up in your name. They're using it to launder your millions, claiming it's for elder care. It's sick. A charity. My name, my legacy, twisted into a front for their greed." The betrayal was a wildfire, burning through every memory of Nathan's childhood promises to make me proud. I pictured him laughing over whiskey, toasting a foundation that mocked my struggle. My heart screamed to confront him, to demand how he could spit on everything I'd given him, but my mind held firm. I needed evidence, not tears. Marla's voice steadied me. "I'm with you, Will. I'll keep my ears open." Her loyalty was a beacon, but the pain of this new deception was a blade twisting deeper. Then, another twist, sharp and vicious. Lena called, her voice urgent. "Check your mail, Will. Someone left a package outside your door." I raced home, my Mustang rattling through Houston's heat. The package was a plain box, no label, but inside was a USB drive and a note. "You're not the only one they've screwed, Harper. Watch this." I plugged the drive into my laptop, my hands trembling. A video loaded grainy footage of Nathan and Derek in a private club, laughing as they signed documents labeled Harper Hope Foundation. Nathan's voice, slurred but clear, said, "The old man'll never know. We'll bleed him dry and look like saints." The betrayal was a sledgehammer, shattering the last illusion of my son's love. My knees buckled, and I gripped the table, torn between the urge to sob and the need to fight. Lena arrived, her face pale but resolute. "They're monsters," she said, her hand on my shoulder. "But you're not alone." The third shock hit before I could breathe. My phone pinged with an email from Ray, the retired CPA. "Found something worse," he wrote. "Your name's on a deed for a Miami penthouse purchased with your millions, titled to Vanessa's cousin, some lowlife named Tony Caldwell. It's a shell game, Will. A penthouse, another monument to my stolen fortune, while I lived on canned soup and prayed my heater wouldn't die." The image of Nathan signing my name, Vanessa smirking, and Derek counting his cut was a fresh wound, raw and bleeding. My mind spun, torn between the father who wanted to believe Nathan was coerced and the man who saw the truth. My son was a thief, surrounded by thieves. Lena's voice cut through. "You're tougher than their lies, Will. We'll nail them." Her loyalty was a lifeline, but the pain was a storm, threatening to drown me. I sat, the USB drive warm in my hand, and let the hurt crash over me. Nathan's laughter in the video, Derek's smug grin, Vanessa's yacht, Vince's threats, Tony's penthouse, they were a conspiracy, each layer of betrayal deeper than the last. I saw Nathan at 16, promising to make me proud at his high school graduation, and felt a sob rise, only to choke it down. The father in me wanted to call him, to beg for the truth, but the man who'd built an empire knew he'd only hear more lies. I opened my notebook, my pen shaking, and wrote, "A fake charity. A penthouse in my name. My son laughs while I starve." The words were a vow, a map to justice. I called Tommy, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. "Get me into that office tonight," I said. "I'm done being their ghost." The Houston skyline loomed outside, a city of glass and greed, but I was still standing, my heart a furnace of grief and grit. Their lies would burn, and I'd light the match. The Houston dusk settled like a bruise, heavy and purple, as I prepared to slip into Nathan's office with Tommy's help. My condo's air was stale, thick with the scent of coffee and betrayal. My notebook opened to its latest vow, a fake charity, a penthouse in my name. My son laughs while I starve. The words were a lifeline, anchoring me to the truth as my heart wrestled with the ghost of Nathan's childhood laughter. Every memory of him tossing a football in our old backyard, his eyes bright with dreams I'd funded with millions, clashed with the reality of his forgery, his jet, his lies. The father in me wanted to believe he'd been seduced by Vanessa's ambition, but the man who'd built an empire knew he'd chosen this path. The pain was a storm, tearing at my roots, but Lena's voice echoed, "You're tougher than their lies." I zipped my jacket, the oil-stained one that felt like armor, and steeled myself for the fight ahead. Tommy met me in an alley behind Nathan's downtown office, his face half-lit by a flickering street lamp. His loyalty was a rock, unyielding in a world of shifting sand. "Security's light tonight," he whispered, handing me a keycard swiped from a disgruntled intern. "Vince has been sloppy, left files out. Let's move." We slipped through a side door, the building's silence sharp, like it was holding its breath. Nathan's office smelled of leather and lies, a mahogany desk gleaming under fluorescent light. I moved carefully, my heart pounding, each step a defiance of Vanessa's threats and Derek's sneers. Tommy stood watch as I rifled through drawers, finding a folder labeled Harper Legacy Fund. Inside were contracts, each one a fresh betrayal. My signature, forged again, authorizing transfers of millions to a Caribbean account. The scale of their greed, yachts, jets, penthouses, now offshore accounts, was a knife in my gut, twisting with every page. The first shock hit like a gunshot. Tucked in the folder was a letter from Vince to Nathan, dated last week. "The old man's sniffing around. Move the funds faster or he'll blow the whole game." The words were a slap, proof they knew I was closing in, yet they mocked me as a nuisance, not a threat. My chest burned, torn between rage and a father's grief. I saw Nathan at 20, borrowing my truck to start his first business, promising to make me proud. Now, he was racing to bury me in lies. I snapped photos with my phone, my hands steady despite the storm inside. Tommy hissed, "We gotta go, someone's coming." My heart lurched, but before we could move, the door swung open, and there stood Vanessa, her eyes blazing like a street hustler caught in a sting. Well, Grandpa's playing spy," she snarled, her voice dripping with Houston gutter venom. You think you can sneak in here and ruin us, you dried-up old fool? You're nothing but a broke-ass relic." Her words were a flamethrower, scorching my pride. But her panic was clear. She hadn't expected me here. I stepped forward, my voice low and cold. "I'm not the fool, Vanessa. I've got your paper trail, and it's gonna burn you." She laughed, sharp and cruel, but her hands trembled as she clutched her purse. "You'll regret this, you pathetic has-been. Keep digging, and we'll make sure you're too broken to stand." She stormed out, her heels clicking like gunfire, leaving a threat that hung like smoke. My heart screamed to chase her, to demand answers, but Tommy grabbed my arm. "Not now, Will. We've got what we need." The second shock crashed in as we slipped back into the alley. My phone buzzed with a call from Ray, his voice tight with urgency. "Will, I hacked into Vince's email, don't ask how. He's been wiring your millions to a shell company tied to a casino in Vegas. Nathan's listed as a silent partner, but the real kicker? Derek's been skimming 10% off every transfer for himself. The betrayal tripled, a hydra of greed. Derek Dusty zero. Derek wasn't just a conspirator, he was double-crossing Nathan, pocketing my stolen millions while laughing at my son's side. I pictured Derek's Rolex, bought with my blood, and felt a sob rise, only to choke it down. The father in me wanted to warn Nathan, to save him from his own snakes. But the man who'd survived oil field betrayals knew he'd chosen this den. Tommy's eyes met mine, his loyalty a quiet strength. "We're close, Will. Don't let their poison stop you." The third shock was a grenade, shattering what little hope remained. As we drove back to my condo, Marla texted, her words a frantic scrawl. "Overheard Vince at the bar. He's got a guy tailing you, Will. Some thug named Joey, works for Tony Caldwell. They're planning to scare you silent, maybe worse. A tail." My skin crawled, the image of a stranger stalking me through Houston's streets, a fresh wound. I checked my rearview mirror, half expecting Joey's shadow, and felt the weight of their conspiracy close in. My mind spun, torn between fear and defiance. I saw Nathan as a boy, asleep in my arms after a long day, and wondered how he'd become a man who'd hire thugs to silence his father. The pain was a chasm, threatening to swallow me, but Tommy's voice cut through. "They're scared, Will. That's why they're pulling this crap. Keep going." His loyalty was a torch, lighting the path forward. Back in my condo, I sat with the folder, the photos, and my notebook, the silence heavy with the weight of betrayal. Nathan's forged signatures, Vanessa's threats, Derek's double-cross, Vince's plots, and now Joey's shadow, they were a cabal. Each layer a deeper cut. I wrote, "Offshore accounts. A casino stake. A thug hunts my name." The words were a vow, a map to justice. My heart ached for the son I'd lost, but the man I'd become refused to break. I called Lena, her voice a steady anchor. "They're coming for me," I said, my voice cracking. "But I'm not running." She paused, then said, "You're stronger than their lies, Will. I'll be here when you need me." Her words were a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. The Houston skyline blinked outside, a city of glass and greed. But I was still standing, my pen a weapon, my grief a fire. Their lies would burn, and I'd be the one to strike the spark. The Houston night pressed against my condo's windows like a fist. The city's hum, a distant taunt as I sat with my notebook, its pages heavy with vows. Offshore accounts, a casino stake, a thug hunts my name. The words were my armor, but they couldn't shield me from the ache of Nathan's betrayal, a wound that bled with every memory of his boyish trust. I saw him at 12, sketching oil rigs in my office, promising to carry my legacy. Now, he'd forged my name, built a casino with my millions, and sent Joey to stalk my shadow. The father in me wanted to call him, to plead for the son I'd raised. But the man who'd clawed through Texas oil fields knew he was gone. The pain was a tide, pulling me under, but Lena's voice, "You're stronger than their lies," kept me afloat. I gripped my pen, my heart, a furnace of grief and grit, ready to burn their lies to ash. A buzz from my phone shattered the silence, a message from Tommy. "Meet me at the warehouse lot, midnight. Got a lead on Joey." I pulled on my oil-stained jacket, the fabric a reminder of harder days I'd survived, and drove through Houston's neon-lit streets. The warehouse lot was a graveyard of rusting crates, the air thick with diesel and secrets. Tommy waited by his truck, his face taut, a USB drive in his hand. "Found Joey's burner phone records," he said, his loyalty a steady flame. "He's been texting Vince about a cleanup job. They're planning to frame you for fraud to discredit you." The revelation was a sledgehammer, another layer of betrayal. Not just theft, but a plot to paint me as the criminal, to bury my truth under their lies. My chest tightened, torn between rage and the crushing weight of Nathan's complicity. Tommy's eyes met mine. We're gonna nail these bastards, Will. Stay sharp. Are you enjoying the story so far? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Just drop a quick comment below to share how you feel. It only takes a few seconds, but your words give me the motivation and inspiration to make every chapter more thrilling and engaging. Go ahead, let me know what's on your mind. And now, let's dive back into the story. Before I could respond, headlights sliced through the dark, and a black SUV screeched to a stop. Joey himself stepped out, a hulking figure with a sneer straight out of Houston's roughest corners. "Well, ain't this cute?" he growled, his voice dripping with street venom. "Old man Harper thinks he's a damn detective. You're a walking corpse, Pops, digging into shit that'll get you buried." His words were a blade, slicing through my dignity, but his eyes betrayed fear. He knew I was close. I stood tall, my voice cold as steel. "You're a hired dog, Joey. Bark all you want, but I've got your master's leash." He lunged forward, fists clenched, but Tommy stepped in, his own street-honed edge flaring. "Back off, punk, or you'll be eating pavement." Joey hesitated, then spat on the ground and peeled out, his threat lingering like exhaust. My heart pounded, torn between fear and defiance, the father in me aching for Nathan's innocence, the man in me ready to fight. The first shock of the night hit like a freight train. As Tommy and I drove back, my phone rang Clara, her voice trembling. "Will, I found an email in Nathan's server. He's been funneling your millions into a fake art gallery, Harper Fine Arts, claiming it's a family legacy for tax breaks. Vanessa's selling the paintings, your money for cash under the table." An art gallery. My name, twisted into another lie, while I scraped by on canned beans. The betrayal was a wildfire, burning through memories of Nathan begging for seed money for his first venture. I pictured him and Vanessa clinking champagne over forged Picassos, laughing at my ruin. My hands shook, the urge to confront him warring with the need for proof. Clara's voice steadied me. "I've saved the emails, Will. We'll get them." Her loyalty was a lifeline, but the pain was a blade, cutting deeper with every lie. The second shock slammed in before I could catch my breath. Marla called, her words frantic. "Will, I was at the bar when Derek came in, bragging to a real estate shark about a ski chalet in Aspen bought with Harper family funds. He said you're too senile to notice. It's listed under Tony Caldwell's name." A chalet, another monument to my stolen millions, while my condo's heater coughed and died. The image of Derek, smirking over a whiskey, mocking my age while pocketing my fortune, was a fresh wound. My heart screamed to storm Nathan's mansion, to demand how he could let his partner spit on me, but my mind held firm. Evidence, not emotion. Marla's voice was a quiet anchor. "I'm keeping tabs, Will. You're not alone." Her loyalty burned bright, but the betrayal was a storm, threatening to drown me in grief. The third shock was a landmine, exploding what little hope remained. My phone pinged with a text from Ray, his words a gut punch. "Found a recorded call on Vince's cloud. Nathan told Vanessa to neutralize. You said you're a liability. They're planning to declare you incompetent, lock you in a care home." Incompetent. The word was a guillotine, severing the last thread of my son's love. I saw Nathan at 18, hugging me after college acceptance, promising to make me proud. Now, he was plotting to strip my freedom, to cage me while he spent my millions. The pain was a chasm, my mind torn between the father who wanted to save him and the man who saw the truth. Nathan was no victim, but a mastermind. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white, and Tommy's voice cut through. "They're desperate, Will. That's why they're pulling this. Keep going." His loyalty was a torch, lighting the path through my despair. Back in my condo, I sat with the USB drive, the photos, and my notebook, the silence heavy with betrayal's weight. Nathan's plot to lock me away. Vanessa's art gallery, Derek's chalet, Joey's threats, Vince's schemes. They were a hydra. Each had a deeper cut. I wrote, "An art gallery, a chalet. My son plans to cage me." The words were a vow, a map to justice. My heart ached for the boy I'd lost, but the man I'd become refused to break. I called Lena, my voice cracking. "They want to take my freedom," I said, "but I'm not done." She paused, her voice steady. "You're tougher than their lies, Will. I'm here." Her loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. The Houston skyline glared outside, a city of glass and greed, but I was still standing, my pen a sword, my grief a fire. Their lies would burn, and I'd be the one to fan the flames. The Houston morning broke with a gray haze, the kind that smothers the city, like a lie you can't shake. My condo was a fortress of shadows, my notebook, a battlefield scarred with vows. An art gallery, a chalet. My son plans to cage me. The words were my shield, but they couldn't dull the ache of Nathan's betrayal, a wound that pulsed with every memory of his hand in mine, trusting and small. I saw him at 15, cheering at an Astros game, his grin wide as the future I'd promised him. Now, he plotted to lock me away, his forged signatures fueling casinos and chalets while I scraped by. The father in me wanted to drive to his mansion, to beg for the boy I'd loved, but the man who'd fought through oilfield wars knew he'd chosen this betrayal. The pain was a current, dragging me under, but Lena's words, "You're stronger than their lies," were a lifeline. I gripped my coffee mug, chipped and warm, my heart a furnace of grief and resolve, ready to torch their web of deceit. A sharp knock jolted me. It was Ray, his face lined with the weight of secrets, a USB drive clutched in his hand. His loyalty, forged in years balancing my books, was a quiet strength. "Got something you need to hear," he said, his voice low. He played a recording from Vince's cloud, a conversation between Nathan and a woman I didn't know, her voice sharp as a switchblade. "The old man's getting nosy," Nathan said. "We need to move the trust funds to the Caymans before he blows it." The woman laughed. "Your dad's a relic, Nate. Let's bleed him dry." The betrayal was a thunderbolt, another layer of conspiracy. Not just Vanessa, Derek, and Vince, but a new player, a stranger profiting from my ruin. My chest burned, torn between the urge to scream and the need to stay sharp. Ray's eyes met mine, steady. "We'll trace her, Will. You're not alone." Before I could process, my phone buzzed a text from Marla, her words frantic. "Will, overheard Vince at the bar. He's got a hacker wiping your financial records to make it look like you squandered your millions. They're calling it Harper's Gambit to smear you." The shock was a gut punch, a plot to erase my legacy and paint me as a reckless fool. My name, once a beacon in Texas oil, was now a pawn in their game, twisted to hide their theft of millions. I pictured Nathan laughing over bourbon, plotting to rewrite my life, and felt a sob rise, only to choke it down. The father in me wanted to believe he was trapped, but the man who'd survived cutthroat deals knew he was the architect. Marla's voice was a lifeline. "I'm watching them, Will. Keep fighting." Her loyalty burned bright, but the pain was a blade, slicing deeper with every lie. The second shock hit like a freight train. As I sat with Ray, my phone rang Lena, her voice shaking. "Will, someone broke into my apartment. Left a note. Tell Harper to back off. Or you're next. It's got Joey's stench all over it." The threat was a grenade, exploding the fragile safety of those around me. Joey wasn't just tailing me, he was targeting my allies, trying to choke my fight with fear. My heart pounded, torn between guilt for dragging Lena into this and rage at their cowardice. I saw Nathan as a toddler, clinging to my leg, and wondered how he'd become a man who'd let thugs threaten a nurse who'd only shown me kindness. Lena's voice steadied me. "I'm not scared, Will. They're the ones running." Her courage was a torch, but the betrayal was a storm, threatening to drown me in grief. The third shock was a landmine, shattering what little hope remained. Tommy called, his voice tight. "Will, I got a tip from a mole in Nathan's office. They've got a fake will in your name, leaving everything to Vanessa's shell company if you're declared incompetent. Derek's pushing it, saying you're losing it. A fake will. The ultimate betrayal. Not just stealing my millions, but planning to erase my legacy after my death." My mind spun, picturing Derek's smirk, Vanessa's cold eyes, and Nathan signing my name to a document that would bury me forever. The pain was a chasm, my heart torn between the father who wanted to save his son and the man who saw the truth. Nathan was a predator, surrounded by predators. Tommy's loyalty cut through. "We've got enough to bury them, Will. Let's move." His words were a spark, igniting my resolve. Then the door slammed open, and Derek stormed in, his Rolex glinting like a taunt. "You're a sad old bastard, Harper," he snarled, his voice pure Houston street filth. "Think you can play hero with your little notebook? You're a washed-up nobody, and we'll crush you like a roach." His words were a flamethrower, burning my pride, but his eyes betrayed panic. He knew I had proof. I stood, my voice ice cold. "You're a leech, Derek. Keep talking, and I'll make sure the feds squash you first." He laughed, but it was hollow, and he backed off, tossing a parting shot. "You're dead meat, old man. Enjoy your last days." The threat hung like smoke, but it only fueled my fire. My heart screamed to confront Nathan, to demand how he could let this snake spit on me. But my mind held firm. Evidence, not emotion. I sat, the USB drive and notebook warm in my hands, the silence heavy with betrayal's weight. Nathan's new ally, the hacker, the fake Will, Joey's threats, Derek's venom, they were a hydra. Each had a deeper wound. I wrote, a fake Will, a hacker erases my name. My son buries me alive. The words were a vow, a map to justice. My heart ached for the boy I'd lost, but the man I'd become refused to break. I called Clara, my voice cracking. They're trying to erase me, I said, but I'm still here. She paused, her voice steady. You're tougher than their lies, Will. We'll fight this. Her loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. The Houston skyline glared outside, a city of glass and greed, but I was still standing, my pen a sword, my grief a fire. Their lies would burn, and I'd be the one to strike the flame. The Houston midday sun burned through the haze, casting jagged shadows across my condo's worn carpet. My notebook lay open, its pages a litany of betrayal. A fake Will, a hacker erases my name. My son buries me alive. Each word was a brick in the wall I was building against Nathan's lies, Vanessa's venom, and Derek's greed. The pain was a pulse, throbbing with memories of Nathan at 7, his small hand in mine as we watched fireworks light up the Texas sky. Now he plotted to cage me, his forged signatures fueling a fake empire while I counted pennies for gas. The father in me wanted to drive to his mansion, to shake him until the boy I loved resurfaced. But the man who'd survived oilfield betrayals knew he was lost to me. Lena's voice, "You're tougher than their lies," was a beacon, guiding me through the storm of grief. I gripped my pen, my heart a crucible of anguish and resolve, ready to tear their house of deceit to the ground. A sharp buzz from my phone snapped me out of my reverie, a voicemail from Clara, her voice taut with urgency. "Will, I found a hidden file on Nathan's server. It's a ledger for a fake scholarship fund, Harper Future Stars, claiming to honor your legacy. Millions of your money, funneled to offshore accounts, with Vanessa's signature all over it. The betrayal was a sledgehammer, another layer of treachery. My name, once a symbol of Texas grit, was now a front for their greed, a scholarship fund that never helped a single kid. I pictured Nathan and Vanessa posing for photos at a fake gala, toasting my stolen millions while I ate cold soup in a condo that smelled of defeat. My chest tightened, torn between the urge to scream and the need to stay sharp. Clara's loyalty was a lifeline. "I've backed it up, Will. We'll bury them with this." Her words were a spark, but the pain was a blade, cutting deeper with every lie. Before I could process, my door rattled with a heavy knock. It was Vince, his cheap suit reeking of cigarette smoke, his grin a street hustler's taunt. "Well, look at you, old-timer," he sneered, his voice pure Houston gutter trash. "Still playing detective, you broke-ass dinosaur? Keep poking, and we'll make sure you're shuffling off to a nut house where you belong." His words were a flamethrower, scorching my pride, but his eyes betrayed panic. He knew I was closing in. I stood, my voice cold as asphalt. "You're a rat, Vince. Scurry back to your hole before I drag you to the feds." He laughed, sharp and cruel, but his hands twitched. "You're a dead man walking, Harper. We'll crush you like a bug." He slammed the door, leaving a threat that hung like smog. My heart screamed to chase him, to demand how Nathan could let this thug spit on me, but my mind held firm. Proof, not rage. The first shock of the day hit like a lightning strike. My phone pinged with a text from Ray, his words a gut punch. "Found a contract in Vince's files. Nathan sold your old oilfield patents, your life's work to a shell company for pennies, then flipped them for millions to a rival firm. Derek's name is on the deal." The betrayal was a wildfire, burning through memories of Nathan watching me sign those patents, his eyes wide with pride. Now, he'd sold my legacy, my innovations, for a quick buck, with Derek pocketing a cut. My hands shook, the urge to storm Nathan's office warring with the need for evidence. I saw him at 21, promising to protect the family name, and felt a sob rise, only to choke it down. Ray's voice was a steady anchor. "I've got copies, Will. We'll make them pay." His loyalty burned bright, but the pain was a storm, threatening to drown me. The second shock crashed in like a tidal wave. Marla called, her voice shaking. "Will, I was at the bar when Vanessa came in, bragging to a socialite about a private island bought with Harper Family Trust money. She said, 'You're too old to care. It's in Tony Caldwell's name.' An island. Another monument to my stolen millions, while my condo's walls closed in. The image of Vanessa, sipping martinis on a beach bought with my blood, was a fresh wound. My heart screamed to confront Nathan, to demand how he could let his wife mock me, but my mind held firm. Evidence, not tears. Marla's loyalty was a beacon. I'm watching them, Will. You're not alone. Her words were a lifeline, but the betrayal was a blade, slicing deeper with every lie. The third shock was a grenade, shattering what little hope remained. Tommy texted, his words frantic. Got a tip from a janitor at Nathan's office. They've got a fake medical report claiming you've got dementia, signed by a crooked doc. They're pushing to have you committed by next week. Dementia. The word was a guillotine, severing the last thread of my son's love. I saw Nathan at 10, laughing as we rebuilt a carburetor, his hands clumsy but eager. Now, he was forging medical records to lock me away, to erase me while he spent my millions. The pain was a chasm, my mind torn between the father who wanted to save him and the man who saw the truth. Nathan was a predator, surrounded by predators. Tommy's voice cut through. We've got enough to burn them, Will. Stay strong. His loyalty was a torch, lighting the path through my despair. I sat, the notebook warm in my hands, the silence heavy with betrayal's weight. Nathan's fake scholarship, Vanessa's island, Derek's patent deal, Vince's threats, the forged medical report they were a hydra, each head a deeper wound. I wrote, a fake fund, an island. My son calls me mad. The words were a vow, a map to justice. My heart ached for the boy I'd lost, but the man I'd become refused to break. I called Lena, my voice cracking. They're trying to lock me away, I said. But I'm still fighting. She paused, her voice steady. You're tougher than their lies, Will. I'm here. Her loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. The Houston skyline glared outside, a city of glass and greed. But I was still standing, my pen, a sword, my grief, a fire. Their lies would burn, and I'd be the one to light the blaze. The Houston twilight hung heavy, a smog-choked veil that mirrored the weight in my chest. My condo was a bunker, its walls closing in as my notebook lay open, its pages a testament to Nathan's treachery. A fake fund. An island. My son calls me mad. Each word was a stone in the fortress I was building against his lies, Vanessa's venom, and Derek's greed. The pain was a living thing, clawing at my heart with memories of Nathan at 9, his eyes bright as we fished in Galveston, promising to make me proud. Now, he forged medical records to cage me, his stolen millions fueling a private island while I rationed heat in a crumbling condo. The father in me wanted to storm his mansion, to shake him until the boy I loved confessed. But the man who'd survived oilfield betrayals knew he was a stranger. Lena's voice. You're tougher than their. Lies was a lifeline, pulling me through the storm. I gripped my pen, my heart, a furnace of grief and grit, ready to burn their empire of deceit to the ground. A sharp ping from my phone broke the silence, a text from Tommy, his words urgent. Meet me at the library now. Got a witness who's ready to talk. I pulled on my oil-stained jacket, its weight a reminder of battles won, and drove through Houston's neon-lit streets, the city's pulse a mocking rhythm. The library was a sanctuary, its quiet shelves a stark contrast to my chaos. Tommy waited in a corner, beside a woman I didn't know, Sarah Delgado, a former assistant in Nathan's office, her face pale but resolute. Her loyalty, born of disgust at their schemes, was a quiet fire. I saw emails, she whispered, handing me a USB drive. Nathan's been bribing a judge to fast-track your incompetency hearing. Your millions are funding it. The betrayal was a thunderclap, another layer of treachery. My son, not just stealing but corrupting justice to erase me. My chest burned, torn between rage and a father's anguish. I saw Nathan at 13, beaming as I taught him to drive, and felt a sob rise, only to choke it down. Sarah's eyes met mine. I'm risking everything, Will, but you deserve the truth. Her courage was a beacon, but the pain was a blade, slicing deeper. Before I could speak, the library doors swung open, and Tony Caldwell strutted in, his leather jacket reeking of cheap cologne, his grin a street thug's taunt. Well, ain't this a sad little book club? He sneered, his voice pure Houston gutter filth. Old man Harper, still chasing ghosts? You're a dried-up nobody, and we'll shove you in a loony bin where you belong. His words were a flamethrower, scorching my pride, but his eyes betrayed panic. He knew I was close. I stood, my voice cold as steel. You're a parasite, Tony. Keep talking, and I'll drag you down with them. He laughed, sharp and cruel, but his hands twitched. You're roadkill, Grandpa. Keep sniffing, and we'll make sure you're too broken to crawl. He stormed out, leaving a threat that hung like poison. My heart screamed to chase him, to demand how Nathan could let this lowlife spit on me. but my mind held firm. Evidence, not rage. The first shock hit like a lightning bolt. My phone buzzed with a call from Ray, his voice trembling. Will, I cracked another file. Nathan's been funneling your millions into a fake green energy startup, Harper Eco Ventures, claiming it's your legacy. It's a front Vanessa's selling the shares to offshore investors. A startup, my name, twisted into another lie while I counted coins for groceries. The betrayal was a wildfire, burning through memories of Nathan at 16, vowing to honor my name. I pictured him and Vanessa pitching fake eco dreams to tycoons, laughing at my ruin. My hands shook, the urge to confront him warring with the need for proof. Ray's voice steadied me. I've got the contracts, Will. We'll nail them. His loyalty was a lifeline, but the pain was a blade, cutting deeper with every lie. The second shock slammed in like a tidal wave. Marla texted, her words frantic. Will heard Derek at the bar, bragging about a private jet hangar bought with Harper Trust money. He said you're too senile to know. It's in Vince's name. A hangar, another monument to my stolen millions, while my Mustang coughed on its last fumes. The image of Derek, smirking over a beer, mocking my age while pocketing my fortune, was a fresh wound. My heart screamed to storm Nathan's office, to demand how he could let his partner spit on me, but my mind held firm. Evidence, not tears. Marla's voice was a quiet anchor. I'm watching them, Will. You're not alone. Her loyalty burned bright, but the betrayal was a storm, threatening to drown me in grief. The third shock was a grenade, shattering what little hope remained. Lena called, her voice shaking. Will, someone slashed my tires last night. Left a note. Harper's next. It's Joey's work, I know it. The threat was a landmine, exploding the safety of those around me. Joey wasn't just tailing me, he was attacking my allies, trying to choke my fight with fear. My heart pounded, torn between guilt for endangering Lena and rage at their cowardice. I saw Nathan as a boy, asleep in my arms after a long day, and wondered how he'd become a man who'd let thugs terrorize a nurse who'd shown me kindness. Lena's voice steadied me. I'm not backing down, Will. Neither should you. Her courage was a torch, but the betrayal was a chasm, threatening to swallow me. I sat, the USB drive and notebook warm in my hands, the silence heavy with betrayal's weight. Nathan's bribe judge, Vanessa's fake startup, Derek's hangar, Tony's threats, Joey's vandalism, they were a hydra. Each had a deeper wound. I wrote, a bribed judge, a fake startup. My son's thugs hunt my allies. The words were a vow, a map to justice. My heart ached for the boy I'd lost, but the man I'd become refused to break. I called Clara, my voice cracking. They're attacking everyone I trust, I said, but I'm still standing. She paused, her voice steady. You're tougher than their lies, Will. We'll fight this. Her loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. The Houston skyline glared outside, a city of glass and greed. But I was still standing, my pen, a sword, my grief, a fire. Their lies would burn, and I'd be the one to set the blaze. The Houston night thickened, a suffocating shroud that mirrored the storm in my chest. My condo was a prison of flickering shadows. My notebook, a war-torn map of Nathan's betrayal. A bribed judge. A fake startup. My son's thugs hunt my allies. Each word was a nail in the coffin of the son I'd raised, their weight-crushing memories of Nathan at 8, his laughter echoing as we built a treehouse in our old backyard. Now, he bribed judges and sent Joey to terrorize my friends, his stolen millions fueling a fake legacy, while I rationed hope in a crumbling condo. The father in me wanted to crash through his mansion's gates, to beg for the boy who'd once called me his hero. But the man who'd survived Texas oil wars knew he was a ghost. Lena's voice. You're tougher than their lies was a lifeline, pulling me through the tempest. I gripped my pen, my heart a crucible of grief and grit, ready to set their empire of deceit ablaze. A sharp rap at the door jolted me a delivery, no return address. Just a plain envelope slipped under the frame. Inside was a grainy photo of me at the library, my face tired, unaware, with red ink scrawled across it. Last warning, Harper. Shut up or bleed. The threat, raw and street sharp, reeked of Joey's handiwork, another layer of betrayal. My allies, Lena, Clara, Sarah, were now targets, their lives tangled in Nathan's web because I dared to fight. My chest burned, torn between guilt for endangering them and rage at my son's cowardice. I saw him at 14, his eyes wide as I taught him to navigate by the stars, promising to guide him always. Now, he guided thugs to my door. Clara's voice echoed from our last call. We'll fight this. Her loyalty was a beacon, but the pain was a blade, slicing deeper with every threat. Before I could steady myself, my phone buzzed a call from Sarah, her voice trembling. Will, I found a memo on Nathan's server. He's been funneling your millions into a fake political campaign, Harper Unity PAC, claiming it's your dream for community good. Vanessa's running it, pocketing donations. The betrayal was a thunderbolt, another monument to my stolen fortune. My name, once a pillar of Texas oil, was now a prop for their political charade while I counted coins for coffee. I pictured Nathan and Vanessa shaking hands with senators, laughing at my ruin over champagne. My hands shook, the urge to confront him warring with the need for proof. Sarah's courage steadied me. I've saved the files, Will. We'll expose them. Her loyalty was a lifeline, but the pain was a wildfire, burning through every memory of Nathan's promises. The first shock hit like a freight train. As I sat with the photo, my phone rang Ray, his voice tight. Will, I traced the PAC funds. They're linked to a slush fund for a crooked congressman tied to Derek. He's using your millions to buy influence, bragging you're too old to notice. The betrayal tripled, a hydra of greed. Derek wasn't just stealing, he was trading my legacy for political favors, mocking my age while pocketing my blood. My heart screamed to storm Nathan's office, to demand how he could let his partner spit on me, but my mind held firm. Evidence, not tears. Ray's voice was a quiet anchor. I've got the receipts, Will. We'll burn them. His loyalty burned bright, but the pain was a blade, cutting deeper with every lie. The second shock slammed in like a tidal wave. Marla texted, her words frantic. Will, overheard Vanessa at the bar. She's got a fake memoir in your name, Harper's Legacy, claiming you gave her your millions willingly. It's set to publish next month, making you look like a fool. A memoir, my life, rewritten as a lie, while my condo's walls crumbled. The image of Vanessa, posing as my biographer, selling my story for profit, was a fresh wound. My heart pounded, torn between the father who wanted to believe Nathan was coerced and the man who saw the truth. He was complicit. Marla's voice steadied me. I'm watching them, Will. You're not alone. Her loyalty was a torch, but the betrayal was a storm, threatening to drown me in grief. The third shock was a grenade, shattering what little hope remained. Tommy called, his voice shaking. Will, got a tip from a cop friend. Nathan's hired a private firm to plant evidence, fake bank records showing you laundering money. They're framing you to lock you away for good. The betrayal was a guillotine, severing the last thread of my son's love. I saw Nathan, at 17, hugging me after a high school game, vowing to make me proud. Now, he was framing me as a criminal, erasing my name to protect his empire. The pain was a chasm, my mind torn between the father who wanted to save him and the man who saw the truth. Nathan was a predator. Tommy's voice cut through. We've got enough to crush them, Will. Stay strong. His loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. Then, my door rattled, and Joey burst in, his bulk filling the room, his sneer pure Houston street venom. You're a pathetic old dog, Harper, he growled, his voice ablade. Still barking at shadows? We'll lock you in a cage and throw away the key, you senile bastard. His words scorched my pride, but his eyes betrayed fear. He knew I was close. I stood, my voice cold as asphalt. You're a hired thug, Joey. Keep talking and I'll make sure the feds chain you first. He laughed, but it was hollow, and he backed off, tossing a parting shot. You're done, old man. Say goodbye to your freedom. The threat hung like poison, but it fueled my fire. My heart screamed to confront Nathan, to demand how he could let this brute spit on me. But my mind held firm. Evidence, not rage. I sat, the notebook warm in my hands, the silence heavy with betrayal's weight. Nathan's fake campaign, Vanessa's memoir, Derek's slush fund, Joey's threats, the planted evidence. They were a hydra. Each had a deeper wound. I wrote, a fake campaign, a memoir lies. My son frames me. The words were a vow, a map to justice. My heart ached for the boy I'd lost, but the man I'd become refused to break. I called Lena, my voice cracking. They're framing me, I said, but I'm still standing. She paused, her voice steady. You're tougher than their lies, Will. I'm here. Her loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. The Houston skyline glared outside, a city of glass and greed, but I was still standing. My pen, a sword, my grief, a fire. Their lies would burn, and I'd be the one to ignite the blaze. The Houston dawn broke with a cruel clarity, the skyline gleaming like a blade that had already drawn blood. My condo was a fortress of ghosts, my notebook a scarred testament to Nathan's treachery, a fake campaign, a memoir lies, my son frames me. Each word was a brick in the wall I'd built against his lies, Vanessa's venom, and Joey's threats. The pain was a living storm, tearing at my heart with memories of Nathan at 11, his voice soft as we watched the sunset over the Gulf, promising to carry my name with pride. Now, he framed me as a criminal, his stolen millions fueling a political charade, while I rationed hope in a crumbling condo. The father in me wanted to storm his mansion, to beg for the boy who'd once called me his anchor, but the man who'd clawed through Texas oil fields knew he was a shadow. Lena's voice, "You're tougher than their lies," was a lifeline, pulling me through the tempest. I gripped my pen, my heart a crucible of grief and grit, ready to burn their empire of deceit to ashes. A sharp buzz from my phone shattered the silence, a voicemail from Ray, his voice taut with urgency. "Will, I found a deleted email chain. Nathan's been paying off a private investigator to dig up dirt on you fake affairs, gambling debts to sell the incompetent story to the press." The betrayal was a thunderclap, another layer of treachery. My son, not just framing me, but crafting a smear campaign to bury my reputation. I pictured him and Vanessa plotting over martinis, laughing as they painted me a reckless fool. My chest burned, torn between rage and the crushing weight of a father's love. I saw Nathan at 19, his eyes bright with college dreams I'd funded, and felt a sob rise, only to choke it down. Ray's loyalty was a beacon. "I've saved the emails, Will. We'll expose them." His words were a spark, but the pain was a blade, slicing deeper with every lie. Before I could steady myself, my door rattled with a violent knock. It was Derek, his Rolex glinting like a taunt, his sneer pure Houston street venom. "Well, look at you, you washed-up old dog," he growled, his voice a flamethrower. "Still playing detective, you pathetic has. Ben, we'll smear your name so bad you'll be a joke in every bar from here to Dallas." His words scorched my pride, but his eyes betrayed panic. He knew I was close. I stood, my voice cold as asphalt. "You're a leech, Derek. Keep talking, and I'll make sure the feds burn you first." He laughed, sharp and cruel, but his hands twitched. "You're toast, Grandpa. We'll make sure the world laughs at your sorry ass." He slammed the door, leaving a threat that hung like poison. My heart screamed to chase him, to demand how Nathan could let this snake spit on me, but my mind held firm. Evidence, not rage. The first shock hit like a freight train. Marla called, her voice shaking. "Will?" I heard Vanessa at the bar, bragging about a fake documentary. "Harper's Fall, claiming you lost your millions to bad investments. It's set to air on a streaming service, funded by your money. A documentary. My life, twisted into a lie, while my condo's walls crumbled." The image of Vanessa, posing as a filmmaker, selling my ruin for profit, was a fresh wound. My heart pounded, torn between the father who wanted to believe Nathan was coerced and the man who saw the truth. He was complicit. Marla's voice steadied me. "I'm watching them, Will. You're not alone." Her loyalty was a torch, but the betrayal was a storm, threatening to drown me in grief. The second shock slammed in like a tidal wave. Tommy texted, his words frantic. "Got a tip from a bank insider. Nathan's been using your millions to fund a fake real estate empire, Harper Towers, claiming it's your legacy. It's a front, Derek selling the properties to offshore buyers, pocketing the cash. A real estate empire, another monument to my stolen fortune, while I counted coins for gas. The image of Derek, smirking over a deal, mocking my legacy while profiting from my blood, was a fresh wound. My heart screamed to confront Nathan, to demand how he could let his partner spit on me, but my mind held firm, evidence, not tears. Tommy's voice was a quiet anchor. "We've got the contracts, Will. We'll crush them." His loyalty burned bright, but the pain was a blade, cutting deeper with every lie. The third shock was a grenade, shattering what little hope remained. Sarah called, her voice trembling. "Will, I found a hidden file. Nathan's been bribing a psychiatrist to write a report claiming you're delusional, to seal the incompetency case. Vanessa's paying her off with your millions." A psychiatrist. The ultimate betrayal, not just framing me, but twisting my mind into a lie. I saw Nathan at 20, his arms around me after his first business deal, vowing to make me proud. Now, he was buying lies to lock me away, erasing my sanity to protect his empire. The pain was a chasm, my mind torn between the father who wanted to save him and the man who saw the truth. Nathan was a predator. Sarah's courage cut through. "I've got the proof, Will. We'll stop them." Her loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. I sat, the notebook warm in my hands, the silence heavy with betrayal's weight. Nathan's smear campaign, Vanessa's documentary, Derek's real estate scam, Joey's threats, the bribed psychiatrist, they were a hydra. Each had a deeper wound. I wrote, a fake documentary, a tower empire. My son calls me insane. The words were a vow, a map to justice. My heart ached for the boy I'd lost, but the man I'd become refused to break. I called Clara, my voice cracking. They're rewriting my mind, I said. But I'm still here. She paused, her voice steady. You're tougher than their lies, Will. We'll fight this. Her loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. The Houston skyline glared outside, a city of glass and greed, but I was still standing, my pen a sword, my grief a fire. Their lies would burn, and I'd be the one to set the blaze. The Houston dawn broke with a merciless glow, the skyline a jagged scar against the sky, reflecting the wounds in my heart. My condo was a mausoleum of memories, my notebook, a blood-stained chronicle of Nathan's treachery, a fake documentary, a tower empire. My son calls me insane. Each word was a hammer driving nails into the coffin of the son I'd raised, their weight crushing visions of Nathan at 6, his tiny hand clutching mine as we walked through a Texas fair, his laughter my only treasure. Now he bribed psychiatrists and framed me as a criminal, his stolen millions fueling a fake legacy while I rationed hope in a crumbling condo. The father in me wanted to storm his mansion, to plead for the boy who'd called me his rock. But the man who'd survived oilfield wars knew he was a phantom. Lena's voice, you're tougher than their lies, was a lifeline, pulling me through the storm. I gripped my pen, my heart a furnace of grief and grit, ready to burn their empire of deceit to the ground. A sharp buzz from my phone shattered the silence, a text from Tommy, his words frantic. Meet me at the diner now. Got a bombshell from a whistleblower. I pulled on my oil-stained jacket, its weight a reminder of battles won, and drove through Houston's morning haze, the city's pulse a mocking drumbeat. At the diner, Tommy sat with a man I didn't know, Eddie Ruiz, a former driver for Nathan's firm, his eyes heavy with guilt but steady with resolve. His loyalty, born of disgust at their schemes, was a quiet fire. I overheard Nathan and Vanessa, Eddie whispered, handing me a recorder. They've been funneling your millions into a fake veterans charity, Harper Heroes Fund, claiming it's your legacy. They're skimming donations for a private helicopter. The betrayal was a thunderclap, another monument to my stolen fortune. My name, once a beacon of Texas grit, was now a prop for their greed, while I counted coins for rent. I pictured Nathan and Vanessa posing with veterans, laughing at my ruin over champagne. My chest burned, torn between rage and a father's anguish. Eddie's voice steadied me. I recorded it, Will. We'll bury them. His courage was a beacon, but the pain was a blade, slicing deeper with every lie. Before I could respond, the diner door slammed open, and Vanessa stormed in, her designer heels clicking like gunfire, her sneer pure Houston street venom. Well, look at you, you washed-up old fool, she hissed, her voice a flamethrower. Still playing detective, you pathetic has-been? We'll lock you in a nut house and piss on your grave, you senile bastard. Her words scorched my pride, but her eyes betrayed panic. She knew I was close. I stood, my voice cold as asphalt. You're a vulture, Vanessa. Keep talking, and I'll make sure the feds clip your wings. She laughed, sharp and cruel, but her hands trembled. You're roadkill, Grandpa. We'll make sure the world spits on your name. She stormed out, leaving a threat that hung like poison. My heart screamed to chase her, to demand how Nathan could let her spit on me. But my mind held firm. Evidence, not rage. The first shock hit like a lightning bolt, Ray called, his voice trembling. Will, I found a hidden file. Nathan's been paying off a tabloid to run a story claiming you're a con man who faked your oil empire. They're using your millions to fund it. The betrayal was a wildfire, burning through memories of Nathan at 22, his arms around me after his first big deal, vowing to honor my name. Now he was rewriting my life as a fraud, while I scraped by on canned beans. My hands shook, the urge to confront him warring with the need for proof. Ray's loyalty steadied me. I've got the emails, Will. We'll burn them. His words were a spark, but the pain was a blade, cutting deeper with every lie. The second shock slammed in like a tidal wave. Marla texted, her words frantic. Will, heard Derek at the bar, bragging about a luxury cruise ship bought with Harper Trust money. He said, you're too old to care. It's in Joey's name. A cruise ship. Another monument to my stolen millions, while my Mustang coughed on its last fumes. The image of Derek, smirking over a whiskey, mocking my age while profiting from my blood, was a fresh wound. My heart pounded, torn between the father who wanted to believe Nathan was coerced and the man who saw the truth. He was complicit. Marla's voice was a quiet anchor. "I'm watching them, Will. You're not alone." Her loyalty burned bright, but the betrayal was a storm, threatening to drown me in grief. The third shock was a grenade, shattering what little hope remained. Sarah called, her voice shaking. "Will, I found a secret recording. Nathan's been bribing a nursing home to prepare a room for you, claiming you're a danger to yourself. Vanessa's signing the checks with your millions." A nursing home. The ultimate betrayal. Not just framing me, but planning to cage me alive, erasing my freedom. I saw Nathan at 15, his eyes bright as we rebuilt an engine, vowing to make me proud. Now, he was locking me away, stripping my dignity to protect his empire. The pain was a chasm, my mind torn between the father who wanted to save him and the man who saw the truth. Nathan was a predator. Sarah's courage cut through. "I've got the proof, Will. We'll stop them." Her loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. I stood, my notebook warm in my hands, and walked to the window, the Houston skyline glaring like a city built on my stolen dreams. I wrote, "A fake charity, a cruise ship. My son cages me." The words were a vow, a map to justice. But the weight of betrayal was crushing, and I sank to the floor, my heart breaking for the boy I'd lost. Unlike the original tale, I didn't seek a courtroom's verdict. I chose a different path, a public reckoning. I posted my story online on a platform called Revenge X, my words raw. "My son stole millions, called me mad, and plans to cage me. Who do you trust when family betrays you?" The post exploded, shared by thousands, their comments a chorus of pain. Fathers, mothers, betrayed by their own. The knowledge of their stories, the education of shared suffering, gave me strength. The knowledge of truth, the education of standing tall, became my shield. The knowledge of justice, the education of courage, fueled my fire. The knowledge of resilience, the education of grit, held me up. The knowledge of community, the education of shared pain, showed me I wasn't alone. The lesson was clear. Betrayal doesn't define you, your fight does. The lesson of standing up, of speaking truth, is a gift you give yourself. The lesson of community is that no one fights alone. The lesson of courage is that it grows in the dark. The lesson of justice is that it shines brightest when earned. I found peace, not in forgiveness, but in reclaiming my name. I traded my Mustang for a new car, moved to a brighter condo, and spoke at senior centers, sharing the knowledge and education of protecting your legacy. I wish you strength, health, and joy every day, and the health to stand tall. Please, share your thoughts below. How does this story resonate with your life? Subscribe to Revenge X on YouTube for more stories that spark your heart. Like and share to spread this lesson. I wish you health and peace. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.